What are we discussing on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast? The LA Dodgers signed Roki Sasaki, and people are big mad. I'm here to tell you why a lot of that anger is misguided and why the D backs still have a chance, even after this super team that the Dodgers have built. How the D backs still have a chance to take down the Dodgers in 2025.
You are Locked on Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas, multimedia journalist and a graphic designer. So please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there, you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. If you want to see more content by me, please follow me on Twitter at CareerThomas24 for my personal account, or look up Locked on Diamondbacks, both Twitter and Instagram, for the podcast handle. On today's show, we are discussing a whole lot about Roki Sasaki, why I believe a lot of the anger toward him is a little bit misguided, and toward the Dodgers even is a little bit misguided. So we'll discuss that. We'll discuss if baseball has a parity problem, and if the D-backs still have a shot, despite this super team that the Dodgers have built, the D-backs still have a shot to take down LA and the Evil Empire in 2025. So a whole bunch I want to talk to you guys about today. But first, I want to say, thank you for making Locked on Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms. So please continue to tell your friends. And one of those platforms is YouTube. Please subscribe to Locked on Diamondbacks on YouTube. All right. Let's get back to the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. And I believe there's two areas where, when looking at the Roki Sasaki signing to the D-backs, not to the D-backs, I wish to the D-backs, to the Dodgers, there's two areas where I feel like the anger toward the whole situation is a little bit misguided. The first part is toward like Roki Sasaki, because I get it. There are people out there saying Roki to the Dodgers feels like KD to the Warriors. And, I get it from the standpoint of superstar player joining an already championship built franchise as they're like at the peak of their powers, right? Obviously, the Warriors are coming off the finals loss, Dodgers coming off the World Series win, and now Roki Sasaki joins that squad that like does not need him at all. He's like the number 5 starter. So from that standpoint, I get the comparisons of him being Kevin Durant. But also, I just feel like the anger and vitriol toward Roki has almost gone too far. Like, at the end of the day, I think after this whole Corbin Burns experience, I think from at least D-backs fans' perspective, we have learned to take a step back and realize, even in sports, sometimes you have to remember the human element of it all. And with the Roki Sasaki, yes, it sucks that this super talented, arguably the best pitcher on the free agent market this season, joined this World Series winner to be the back end starter. Like, it's silly when you discuss about it, when you discuss and talk about it like that. But take a step back, look at it through the prism of the human perspective. If you're a Roki, you're in Japan, you want to come overseas. Where's the best place to get integrated easily when it comes to culture and just like convenience and comfort? Like, take away the playing and the franchises and the ball clubs, like all that matters. But if you're just Roki going across country, going overseas, like, of course, the Dodgers that already have Ohtani and Yamamoto, guys that you have already played with in Japan, guys that you've already competed with and have memories with, of course, you're going to join the LA Dodgers. Yes, the Dodgers are a great franchise that do great things, develop talent, spend money, but if they didn't already have Ohtani and Yamamoto, I don't know if Roki Sasaki signs there. I think that was the biggest factor in this whole decision-making process. Roki has discussed he didn't want to go to a big market. Well, you could throw that out the window because everyone predicted Roki to the Dodgers because of those Japanese stars in Ohtani and Yamamoto. That ended up being the truth, and that's why I don't want to just sit here and just bash Roki Sasaki for making a decision like that, because I look at it more from the human perspective of what Roki did. Yes, from a competitive standpoint balance, it sucks, right? It does feel like Kevin Durant in that standpoint of the rich getting richer. How do the Warriors get this elite player? How do the Dodgers get this superstar player? I get it from that standpoint, but the difference between the Kevin KD situation, the Roki situation, Roki is going thousands of miles overseas, and I'm sure the easiest way to get integrated into a situation like that is joining people who you already know, who you're already familiar with. So I don't want to blame Roki Sasaki for that. When I look at this situation of Roki to the Dodgers, I think we have misguided anger toward Roki for being mad at him for joining the super team. And I think we need to redirect some of that anger, not toward the LA Dodgers, but toward Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball. Because yes, it sucks that the Dodgers in back-to-back off seasons were able to get the top Japanese stars, and the fact that they're able to sign Ohtani and defer all his money. But that's why I'm mad at Manfred and the MLB. There needs to be better rules in place so the Dodgers can't build a team that they can't build a team the way that they just did. Yes, the Dodgers built it all legally, so I have no qualms about that. They took advantage of a system legally that was in place. They found loopholes. No matter what you want to say about how the Dodgers built it, they at least built it through legal ways and through the MLB system, right? That's where I push back and say some of the anger is misguided, because we need to be more angry at Manfred and Major League Baseball for allowing rules to be in place where a team like the Dodgers can sign Shohei Ohtani, the best player on the market, give him a 10-year deal and say we're not going to pay you at all during the 10-year deal. We're going to give you $2 million a year, and then as soon as you retire, you can make $50 million a year. Yamamoto, Teoscar Hernandez, Glass now, Blake Snell, all of you guys get the same. We'll pay you guys half the money up front and then half of it way, way, way down the line. Like, I think it's insane that the Dodgers are able to defer so much money. I think it's probably insane that back-to-back off seasons, they're able to sign the top international player from Japan. Like, that probably shouldn't be allowed to happen either. And so if you want to be angry, don't be angry at Roki Sasaki for going to the Dodgers. I think it's okay to be angry at the Dodgers in general for building a super team, but I'm not angry at the Dodgers for trying to constantly improve their team. If the Dodgers can go out there and sign a player of Roki Sasaki's talent for not that much money, like, why wouldn't they, right? Like, I'm not mad at the Dodgers for doing the transaction, because any team, if they had the opportunity, would do it. I'm just mad that it always seems to be the Dodgers that are allowed to do these transactions, that get these transactions done, right? Ohtani is not going to the other ball clubs and saying, hey, defer 98% of my contract. I'll be okay. Like, that just doesn't happen with other ball clubs. So I'm mad at the Dodgers that they always get the best opportunities, that they get more resources, more advantages because of who they are. But I don't get mad at them for just building a team like any other team would do if they were put in the Dodgers situation. And so try not to be mad at the Dodgers too much. You're definitely allowed to be. There's definitely a reason to be mad at the Dodgers. Don't be mad at Roki Sasaki. I don't think he deserves any of your vitriol. If you really want to be mad at someone, be mad at Manfred and the MLB, because you look at the NBA, look at the NFL, they all have rules in place to curtail super teams, right? The NBA just redid their whole CBA to make sure we don't have another Warriors situation. Major League Baseball, this offseason, the committee needs to get together and look at the rules that they have in place so we don't have more Dodgers teams where they could put together 5 number one starters, get the Bets, get the Ohtanis. Like, I'm not even mad if the Dodgers built this team. I'm just mad that the Dodgers built this team, and it seems like they're not paying for this team at all. I think if you're building teams like the way the Dodgers are doing it, you need to have more of the money that you're paying those players up front and like in the present, so it actually affects your team building construction. If all the money is down the line where it doesn't affect you at all in terms of how you're building your roster right now, it just feels a little disingenuous. So if Major League Baseball can go back and fix some of their rules in place, I think it could do the sport a lot of service, because right now a lot of people are saying parity is messed up in Major League Baseball, and that's why I want to discuss, does baseball have a parity problem? We'll discuss that in segment number 2. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. FanDuel is the app that is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly, no waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. My favorite thing to do on FanDuel is the same game parlay. Whenever the Suns are playing, give me KD over on 25 points, give me Booker over on 25, and give me the Suns money line. When it hits, which is not very often, it brings a big smile to my face. If you want a big smile on your face, just visit fanduel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's fanduel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. Let's get back to the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast and let's discuss and get back to the misguided anger fans have from the whole situation of Roki going to the Dodgers, because I said the first way fans were kind of misguided in their anger was toward Roki Sasaki, making him this big villain, right? I didn't think that was too fair. The Dodgers, as a franchise, definitely villainous, but the way that they built their team, I mean, it is legal. The way they did it was nothing wrong. Again, the people we need to be mad at is Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball for allowing rules to be in place that allows the Dodgers to do what they do. That's something that we have to be more mad at. So that was the first way anger was misdirected. The second way the anger is misdirected right now around this whole situation is how people are talking about now the sport of Major League Baseball. Because since Roki signed with the Dodgers, all I've heard is this narrative about how the baseball regular season is just ruined. We already know what's going to happen next season. Why are we even watching this sport? We already know who's going to win. It's always the same teams. And then people are like, this is why baseball is a dying sport, because you have teams like the Dodgers just doing whatever they want, right? I just feel like there are so many lazy takes right now around Major League Baseball, so many disingenuous takes where just people are acting like it's just big market teams in baseball that just win out every single year. Like it just super teams, it's just Yankees, Dodgers, like we saw. People just think the 2024 World Series is just the World Series we get every year. Just Yankees, Dodgers every single season, despite the Yankees having one World Series in like the last 20 plus years, right? In 2009, and them being just a franchise that's been on the precipice of just trying to get to the World Series every single season since. The Dodgers have been in the World Series a lot since '09, but have not won it a ton. They've won it twice, but outside of, this past year, we were considering that 2020 championship a Mickey Mouse ring, right? We didn't take that with we didn't put a lot of respect into that 2020 championship that the Dodgers have had, right? So if you're talking about championship that people care about, like the Dodgers and the Yankees have two in the last 20 plus years. I guess you could have three if you put in the Mickey Mouse ring that the Dodgers won as well. But it's not like those two teams dominate the sport from a championship standpoint. Yes, those teams are always 90 plus wins in the playoff mix, but it's not like they dominate the playoffs year after year. And I feel like so many people tried to make it seem like there's just no parity in baseball at all, despite not self-reflecting at all at the sports that they like, right? When we look at the NBA, was it not dominated for a decade plus, where the Eastern Conference, it was LeBron for 10 straight years, and then for half those years, it was just him against the Golden State Warriors season after season. And then if it was not those two, it was some combination of Kobe or the Spurs every single season in the NBA Finals. Like, we know this. You look at the NFL now, it was dominated by the Patriots for 20 years, and now we're on the precipice of the first three-peat potentially ever by the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, it's two quarterbacks dominated the NFL. It's been like three players dominating the NBA the last 20 years, right? So when you look at the MLB compared to those sports, like in terms of parity, baseball has more parity than probably any of them, right? You look at the last 15 years, last 20 years, look at the World Series, and it's a revolving door of different teams from the Rangers and the Giants and the Yankees. And you look at teams in the World Series like the Kansas City Royals, who won and was there, and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Like, it's a great list of both big market and small market teams, right? So I think the idea of saying baseball doesn't have parity is just straight disingenuous. Now, I will agree if you're talking about the NL West, about who's going to win that next season, like, yeah, that's probably already decided, right? Like, that's been decided the last 15 years. Like, yes, the Dodgers, 99.999% chance they're going to win the NL West in 2025. But is that any different than the Patriots, who won the AFC East every single season? And at least the difference between those two teams, the Dodgers don't seemingly win the World Series every year like the Patriots felt like they were winning the Super Bowl every single season. So, yes, the regular season might be a little diluted for just NL West specifically, just on the premise of who's going to win the division. Like, I guess is diluted from that perspective of NL West fans of who's going to win the NL West. But prior to this year, the Dodgers were like playoff choke artists despite having all the talent in the world, right? Whenever they got to the postseason, we saw guys like Clayton Kershaw break down every single year. And so I think baseball, being such a high variance sport, is the reason why the parity is so great, unlike basketball, where it feels like talent always wins out, right? Or look at football, you could probably just pick the best quarterback coach combination, and they're probably going to go pretty far in the postseason. Baseball, you can't just pick the team with the best players or the team with the best manager, the team with the best rotation. Like, it could be any reason that maybe they're just hot, maybe this or that. Like, there are just so many variables, and that's why baseball is just so great. There is parity, and bringing it all back to the misguided, the misdirected anger. I think people, when I say it's misdirected, baseball has parity from a team standpoint. Where I say it's misdirected is baseball needs more parity from a player standpoint. I think that's where people's real anger is. It's not from the team standpoint, because there is parity. I just broke it all down. Where I think baseball has a problem is it feels like the best players, or at least the most recognizable faces, are on the big market teams. Now, are they the most recognizable just because they're in the big markets, or did their name value grow based on their own production, right? Because I think when you look around the sport of baseball, definitely there are more recognizable faces on the teams that make the most money as opposed to not, right? You look at the highest revenue teams in the sport, it's Yankees, Dodgers, Cubs, Red Sox, Braves, right? Even if you go to number 6, 7, it's Phillies, Astros. Like, we know studs across all those teams, but look at the last 7 teams in terms of revenue. It's the A's, it's the White Sox, it's the Marlins, it's the Rays, it's the Royals, it's the Tigers, it's the Pirates. And it's like all those teams can have seasons where they're as good as the Dodgers or the Yankees, right? Like, that's not a surprise. But the difference is those teams at the top, when it comes to free agency, they typically do get the best players, or at least the most recognizable faces. The thing in baseball is the best players don't always win, right? And you can also, if you're a team like the D-backs in 2023, or like a team like the 2014 Royals, like, you can find players for a single season that gives you the value of these star players. That's why we have parity in baseball. It's such a high variance sport. Yes, the higher revenue teams get the most recognizable faces, but these small market teams, like we saw, right? We saw a whole movie based on Moneyball with Billy Beane, where he said, I don't need star players. I can give you 80 to 90% of that value with these cheap guys. And so many teams in the sport of baseball have that philosophy. Why am I going to spend money on star player A when I could get player C for, a fraction of the cost, and he could give me 80% of the production? And so for baseball, I think the problem that people really have, their anger is really directed toward the talent parity, because from a production standpoint, anybody could really win in Major League Baseball, but where the stars are going to go is typically toward the bigger markets. And it shouldn't be that case, because with no salary cap, any franchise can get these really good, recognizable faces that could at least turn you a profit at the box office. The issue is we have so many cheap owners in the sport of Major League Baseball that not enough people want to open up their wallets. So people want to be mad. Be mad at the owners of small market teams who don't want to spend more money so they could have more recognizable faces, because I think that's really where the anger is. I don't think it's at the parity of baseball, because I think from a team standpoint, there is parity. I think what people are mad at is the talent parity, because it feels like the best players always go to the big market teams. And for the most part, I do think that's true. When you look at the highest revenue teams versus the lowest revenue teams, they definitely have more recognizable faces, despite their team success probably not being that much different. So if you want to be mad at someone, be mad at these owners who have billions of dollars who don't like to spend their money during free agency. Now, one owner who does spend their money during free agency is Ken Kendrick. That's why I want to discuss why the D-backs still have a chance to take down the Dodgers in 2025, despite them building a super team. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant just for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and it helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions or your spending habits or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of over $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockdown today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockdown. rocketmoney.com/lockdown. All right. Let's get back to the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, and let's discuss if the D-backs still have a shot to take down the LA Dodgers, because despite the Dodgers building this super team, I still believe the D-backs put together a team this offseason, and they're still not done, but I think currently they're on the path to building a team that can at least try and stop this LA Dodgers. And I still believe this D-backs team potentially is as good as any team in the National League. Like, I definitely believe that. Put this D-backs team against any team in the National League in a playoff series, and I believe they could match up against them and potentially take them down. Like, why not? D-backs still have a lot of work to do this offseason. Like Mike Hazen has said, they still need a right-handed bat. If they could get like a Randall Grichuk to come back and be DH, they could still use a couple of relievers. But on paper, I like the way that they match up against the Dodgers, especially if they fill in some of the holes that they've discussed this offseason. I think it's a lot closer between these two teams than people even realize, because to be honest, I think the only difference between the Dodgers and the D-backs are the Dodgers are like a name brand team and the D-backs are like an off-brand team, right? Because if you go player by player, position by position, I really don't think it's that far off. Josh Naylor is not Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman is arguably the best first baseman in the world, but Naylor is 27 years old, coming off an all-star season where he had 30 home runs and 100 RBIs. Again, we're talking about player value and maybe not being that superstar, but giving us production like a superstar, right? Naylor could be 80% of Freddie Freeman, at least in terms of offensive production, if he puts up another 30 home run, 100 RBI season. So I don't hate that matchup at all. Max Muncy and Eugenio Suarez, I think they're pretty close. Max Muncy only played half the season last year, and Eugenio had 30 home runs and 100 RBIs. Quite literally played like Babe Ruth in his last 80 games of the season. Like, I don't think those two players are far off if Eugenio's playing like the way he should be. You look at up the middle of the infield. Ketel and Geraldo Perdomo versus Mookie Betts and Hyson Kim. That could low-key be a wash. Mookie Betts is a stud, but he wasn't better than Ketel Marte, who played a full season last year and was a MVP finalist, right? Geraldo Perdomo is more established than Kim right now, and Perdomo, we know, major X factor for this D-backs team in terms of the play discipline, his defense. Like, the D-backs were terrible last year until Perdomo came back from injury and felt like he turned their season around. He's a real spark plug catalyst for this team. Until I see Kim do that for the Dodgers, I might take Perdomo and Ketel over the up the middle infield of the Dodgers. But right now, I think it's okay if you say it's a wash. Will Smith, he's a D-backs killer. I'll give him the edge over Moreno, but Moreno is still someone that's ascending, someone that we saw have a little bit of a offensive breakout last season in a small sample size. If you could do that over the course of a full year in 2025, like, there's still offensive breakout potential to Gabriel Moreno. We probably know what Will Smith is at this point of his career, which is a really nasty offensive and defensive catcher. But Moreno is probably the best defensive catcher in the sport with an improving offensive game. Like, I think that's a lot closer than what people realize if Moreno can start tapping into some power. And then looking at the outfield, is the D-backs outfield not just better than the Dodgers outfield? Corbin Carroll, if he's at his best with, and again, at their best, I think the D-backs outfield is better than the Dodgers. With Corbin Carroll, Jake McCarthy, and Lourdes Gurriel versus Teoscar Hernandez, Tommy Edman, and Michael Conforto. Like, Carroll's an MVP type player, and I don't think Teoscar, Edman, and Conforto can win an MVP. Carroll can win an MVP at his best, and Gurriel can still be like an all-star level outfielder. Maybe Teoscar is the second best player of those 6 players I just named, but I think I would take Carroll, McCarthy, and Gurriel. I think I would take McCarthy and Gurriel over Edman and Michael Conforto. And so I think overall the D-backs outfield is better than the Dodgers outfield. Now, comparing the lineups, obviously the big X factor for the Dodgers is their DH, Shohei Ohtani, who is an absolute monster tank. But last season, at least, the D-backs DH in Grichuk and Jock Peterson matched the offensive production of Shohei Ohtani. I don't know if that's going to happen again in 2025 with no Jock Peterson and currently no Randall Grichuk, but the D-backs have at least showed you we can be close to that offensive production of Shohei Ohtani. And of course, we know the Dodgers rotation full of name brand starters, right? Absolutely loaded. I'll give you that. But you also have some injury risks with the Blake Snells and the Tyler Glasnows. And if we're being honest, Burns, Gallen, Kelly can match up with any top 3 in any rotation in Major League Baseball. Pfaadt, I believe, is a big game pitcher. And so if that's your top 4 in a postseason setting, I don't care who the Dodgers throwing out. I think the D-backs top 4 can match up with the Dodgers top 4. Now, the bullpen, a little bit more questionable. It really depends on if the D-backs can get a guy like Kirby Yates. If you can add Yates with the J-Mart and a Puck, now you have a bullpen of strikeout artists. Right now on paper, yes, the Dodgers are more talented than the D-backs, but I really think it's a game of name brand, off brand, because I think in terms of production, D-backs are going to be right there with the Dodgers next season. And if the D-backs can catch the Dodgers in the postseason, in the NLDS off the bye, I think anything is possible in just 3 games where you need Ohtani and Betts to just kind of crap the bed. We've seen that formula before. D-backs taking down Dodgers in the NLDS. So I would be happy to bring on the Dodgers in a postseason setting in 2025. Now, that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back later this week for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. We'll do a crossover with Javier Reyes of Locked On Padres, discussing the state of the NL West post Roki Sasaki signing. So be on the lookout for that. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Deuces.